So today I wanted to do a little bit of a look back, although it's not that far back, a little bit of a check-in on the 2021 Topps NPB set. That is their inaugural Japanese baseball set. So the set is significant for that reason alone. But I was looking through the set, and I would say that it could also become pretty significant. Some of the cards in this set and some of the players in due time might make it a pretty special set overall. So I wanted to go through some of the cards, some of the players, maybe if it's just like use it as kind of a primer on Japanese baseball or Japanese players. Why don't we start it off? What I'll do is I will show the card of every player who is on Japan's starting roster for the final for the 2023 WBC. And just sort of introduce them. The starting pitcher for that final was Shota Imanaga for the Bay Stars, although I think he only pitched 2 innings. The strategy being to kind of just throw a gauntlet of pitchers at the U.S. team that they'd never seen before, and it kind of worked. But Imanaga, he's a good pitcher. He's not like honestly like one of the top guys probably. He did throw a no hitter. I think a couple years ago or last year. I don't remember. Okay, and then the catcher, you have Yuhei Nakamura. He decorated catcher for the Swallows. The Swallows were the most represented team on this final roster with 3 players. So the catcher from the Swallows. First base is Kazuma Okamoto. He's one of the basically premier sluggers, premier power hitters in Japanese baseball. He hits 30 plus home runs pretty consistently. He's done that for the past few years. So this guy, probably a decent candidate to come to the major leagues potentially at some point, although I don't know that he's actually expressed any interest in doing so. Then you've got second base, another Swallow, Tetsuto Yamada. And shortstop for the Lions, Sosuke Genda. And of course, at third base, Munetaka Murakami, the third and final Swallow to round out the final starting roster. Murakami is far and away the best position player in Japanese baseball. He has had a down year because he played somewhat poorly, particularly by his standards, for about half the season. But he's figured it out, and his numbers are getting back up there. He'll still eclipse 30 home runs this season, I think. Murakami is, I believe, still 23, unless he just turned 24. And he's nearing 200 home runs career. So, pretty insane clip. And he will likely come to the majors in a couple seasons when he's 25 so that he can get his bag, as the kids say. But Murakami is a special player, and he will almost certainly be coming to the major leagues. And then we'll go to the outfield now. Actually, there is only one player on the starting roster for the WBC final who does not have a card in this set, and that's Lars Nootbaar. So, of course, Lars Nootbaar does not have an NPB card from 2021, but we've got Masataka Yoshida now for the Red Sox, was starting outfielder for that game. Yoshida's had a pretty decent season this year. His first season in the major leagues. I know he started really, really hot, and his numbers sort of like went down to being kind of fairly mortal, but pretty good, solid first season in the major leagues overall. And then the other outfielder was Kensuke Kondo, who is a longtime fighter. He won a Japan series with Shohei Ohtani, and I believe he's playing for the Hawks now, if I'm not mistaken. So, all right. So next, why don't we just do some other players of note that were not on the WBC final roster, starting roster. These will just be maybe some notable other players. So let's get into it. For example, card number 1 in this set is Masahiro Tanaka, who had a pretty good career in the major leagues and in the Japanese leagues. Now in Japan, their Hall of Fame definitely, because, like, for example, Hideki Matsui, his Hall of Fame plaque does explicitly mention his time in the major leagues as well, and mentions that combined he hit 500 home runs between the two leagues. So guys like Tanaka, well, I don't know if Tanaka, to be honest, has quite enough to make the Japanese Hall of Fame in either league, but combined even. But guys like Tanaka, with these combined careers, they can make the Japanese Hall of Fame based on their combined numbers, so and achievements and things like that. I don't know about Tanaka, but one guy who might, his path to the Japanese Hall of Fame might be that, is Nori Aoki, one of my favorite players, former Brewer. And Aoki has some pretty legit compile stats between both the leagues, Japanese baseball and the majors. He is well over 2,000 hits. He doesn't have quite 3,000 hits, but he's very much up there. In fact, there is only one member of the Japanese 3,000 hits club. But so basically in Japan, having I would say maybe 2,500 plus hits is more like being in the 3,000 hits club. So Aoki is a player we might see him in the Japanese Hall of Fame, just based on his pretty good compile numbers. How about Seiya Suzuki? Remember this guy? Seiya Suzuki, of course, he came to the Cubs a couple years ago. He has been, not really a star, but a pretty steady performer. Actually, Suzuki, I looked at his numbers a little while ago, and they are absurdly consistent, you could say. If he's basically played the same number of games this year at this point at the time of this video as he played last year, and all his numbers are like a mirror image of each other. It's kind of funny. Average, OPS, number of home runs. I guess with Suzuki, you know what you're getting at least, which is a pretty solid, consistent player. Now we go from a current Cub to a former Japanese Cub. You might remember Kosuke Fukudome. This guy played in the major leagues for the Cubs, and I believe the White Sox for like a year maybe. Didn't have much of a major league career. He did return to Japan, and he played for the Dragons for several years more. He is retired now at this point. Fukudome, yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's one of those guys who might get there based on his combined numbers between the majors and Japanese baseball. 2,000 plus hits, quite a few home runs, and so on. So, okay, and then how about little Yoshinobu Yamamoto? This guy is probably coming to the major leagues next season, 2024. He is the best pitcher in Japanese baseball, really, despite, Roki Sasaki with the perfect game and stuff getting um, a lot more hype. But Yamamoto is far more decorated and far more accomplished than Sasaki. He's also a little bit older. Not much, a couple few years. But Yamamoto is a two-time MVP and two-time Triple Crown winner back to back. He will probably get another Pacific League MVP because he's just having another stellar season. So um, we'll see. I think the only question with him is not really like whether or not he'll perform. Just, can he hold out? You just never know. The way pitchers are now, especially with Japanese pitchers, because traditionally they're just run into the ground over here. Um, but yeah, so here's Roki Sasaki, right? Roki Sasaki pitched the perfect game. He's still very young. I think he's 21. He's currently injured. I think he has like an oblique injury or something. But yeah, this is not a rookie card of Roki Sasaki, but it is basically like a kind of like a true rookie year card because although Sasaki had rookie cards in 2020, he didn't play until 2021, so this is his first Topps card. Really the first year he played. Pretty significant career. Pretty significant card, I think, this one, assuming that Sasaki, even lives up to half of his potential and hype. So just a couple other notable players. Hayato Sakamoto for the Giants. Sakamoto is known as really one of Japanese baseball's best all-around players. He really is. He's also notable for being like a guy who didn't go to the majors. I assume, certainly not because of a lack of interest in him. He kind of just chose not to, which I respect. So he's just all around good, hits home runs, high average. He's been around for a while now. So the Giants have two sluggers, Sakamoto and Okamoto. So sometimes I get them screwed up. But yeah, so Hayato Sakamoto. And then my current favorite, well, my favorite player in Japanese baseball currently, personally, is Koji Chikamoto for the Tigers. My favorite player. He's a center fielder, super fast guy, high average, doesn't hit home runs. He's a little guy, but high average and really fast. Actually, I was at a game on Saturday night at Jingu Stadium watching the Tigers versus the Swallows, and Chikamoto hit two triples. It was awesome. He looks like Sonic the Hedgehog going around the bases. It's crazy. So Koji Chikamoto, one of my favorite players. He also got beamed really hard, and it was kind of dramatic. The Tigers manager was like furious, but he's okay, I think. So that's good. Tigers won. They always lose whenever I go to a game, but they finally won. So Vladimir Valentin, this guy is notable. He was a slugger for a long time in Japanese ball. He has the distinction of being the all-time single-season home run leader with 60. Of course, he beat Sadaharu O's single-season record, which was, of course, not without controversy because he is a foreigner. Although, getting into O being half Chinese and things like that, we could get into that too. So, so Murakami also beat O's record. So Munetaka Murakami has the single season home run record for a Japanese player, and Valentin has the overall record with 60. Murakami, I believe, 56. And then finally, another player I really like in Japanese baseball. This is Takeya Nakamura, who has one of the best baseball nicknames. His nickname basically means second helping because he's so big. Nakamura is one of those guys. I would say he's significant. He is the current active career home run leader in Japanese baseball. I think he's nearing 470. Now, he's got an outside shot at 500 home runs in Japanese baseball. It's still iffy, I think, because he is 40 years old. So I think he'll be 40 next season if he plays. And the last few years, he's been on kind of like a 15 homer a year clip. So he'd probably have to play until he was 42 minimum if he's going to reach 500 home runs in Japanese baseball, which of course is a pretty significant feat, probably more significant than in the majors just because there's fewer games. That's why it's rarer. But yeah, he's got about 470 home runs. And I think what's significant about him is he's another guy who didn't ever go to the major leagues, and he got pretty impressive compile stats just in Japanese baseball, which I think is something, you're just going to see less of. A lot of the all-time great career numbers in Japanese baseball, compiled by guys like Sadaharu Oh or Kaneda on the mound, all of those records are going to be basically just not surpassed ever because the best guys at this point generally make the jump to the majors. But Nakamura is one of those guys where, it's kind of cool that he's got an outside chance at 500 home runs in Japanese baseball. You're just really not going to see that anymore. So, anyway, so I guess, this video, I was going to do some rookies, but that's okay. This video is getting kind of long, so I'm just going to wrap it up there. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Peace.